Good afternoon. I'll be recording some details about the upcoming essay that's due by next Monday at the latest. I'm going to show you some of the details that are offered there underneath the module for the essay. This is the home page, so if you go to your modules and just click on that, the modules will all appear. Right now it's loading all this up, so give it just a moment. And now here's the one for major essays. If it's closed for you when you see it, you just have to click on it, it will open. The first part is an example of a works cited page for you of how to do that. So if you click on it, you can either download it by clicking on this blue, or it will also load here, as you'll see. This one is just for one of the video sources that's available. And this one is for the textbook. You can either do it this way with all three names of the authors, Cunningham, Lawrence, and then the other two, John J. Reich and Lois Fishner Rathis. Or if you want to do it, you can just do it with Cunningham, Lawrence, and others at all, and just do it that way. For your works cited page, you want to make sure you do have the pages of the information that you've taken for this particular part. If you use more than one different section of the textbook for your information, what you can do is leave off the pages because you'll just be referring it. But it would actually be better if you do put the pages that you are using. So you do it this way, and then if you use some other pages that are not consecutive, so these are consecutive pages 196 through 199. If you're going to use something maybe from 245, then you'll simply put a comma here and then 245, and that'll indicate that part. Also available, and we'll go to the next part here, I have a link to the Purdue OWL. So if I click on this, it'll open it up in a new window. And the Purdue OWL is the online writing lab from Purdue University. They have for you a formatting in MLA style, and so you can see all the different details here. I just have to the formatting and style guide. If you need to refresh yourself on how to use MLA format, just review all this information. It has all the details here for you. Has a sample works cited page. It's a little more extensive than the one I did. Has how to use electronic sources, which you'll probably be using quite often. How to do the works cited page, including those electronic sources, and then they also have a sample paper. So I have that for you. Also, I have up here for you the video that when MLA changed in 2016, there were some videos that were put out on how to use it, why you use it in certain ways. And so this is one that if you just click here, it'll open and you can watch it. The next one is also another one over the 8th edition, and it just goes through how to format your essay properly, and it explains how each detail should look on the page. And so again, you can watch this video by simply clicking here. Or if you click here, the link will open. The next part that I have available for you up here is an example of a major essay. Notice it says first major essay. During the fall and spring semesters, I have for my humanities students 2 essay topics, not just one. But for summer, because we were so pressed for time, you only have 1 essay to write. So this one will say the first. But this gives you, again, if you want to download it and look at it a little more leisurely, rather than having to go into Canvas each time, you can actually click here and that will download the document to your computer and open it there. But here's an example of the paper itself. There's your header that you'll put in, and you'll have your heading, with your name, my name, and you'll see this was from last fall. This is over a topic that is not one of your topics. Again, they have different topics, different chapters. But this one goes into detail about the Greco-Roman and Christian religions and the views that they have. Here you'll see a citation from the textbook. And again, Cunningham et al. Just means Cunningham and others wrote the textbook. And there's the page number. And so you have citations here and here. And you go throughout this article. You'll see here's one from De Novo, 72. Again, some other quotes directly quoted or paraphrased. Any information that you take directly from the source and you're quoting word for word will of course go inside quotation marks and will be cited. But also other information that you are paraphrasing or summarizing but it's taken from a source, either the textbook or some other source, must be cited. So please make sure that you're doing the citation. This is a good essay. It's not one of the excellent essays, but it's a good solid essay. And one of the problems that it has is that this information, which is blocked, should have been tabbed over twice. Whenever you block information is going to take more than 3 typed lines. It's directly quoted from the work, and it's going to take more than 3 lines. You have to block it, which means you tab over it twice, not just once, as this person did. And when I marked this essay, that was one of the errors that I marked for that person. Likewise, you just go through here again. You'll see some more from Cunningham, some more from DeNova, details that are offered there, and then here are the listings of the work cited. And you'll see how this one was done. You'll see that DeNova did a commentary over Greek and Roman religions. This was an article this person found. And there was one about Sharon Pace, which I didn't look at, about Judaism. That was also one of the articles that was found. So again, I have a sample paper for you to get an idea of the length. There is a length requirement, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But you can see how this person wrote this essay and offered some comments and development, and did more than just simply quote and summarize works, but actually did some discussion about what that information contained. And that's what I'm looking for. Not just quoted material, but your commentary on that quoted material to help support a point that you're trying to make. This is the essay topic itself, and when you click on it, again, we'll go back to the modules first, so let me show you again where this appears in the module. Give it just a moment. There you go. When you click on the major essays, it will be the actual assignment is the very last part of this module. So when you click on it, it will open, and again, you can download the handout, the topic handout, or you can also just read it here. This is what I want you to pay attention to. You're to answer one of the following topics with details and support from the textbook. Outside sources may be used for further support. The response must be approximately 1,000 words. Longer responses are acceptable and must follow MLA format. Shorter responses and those that do not follow MLA format standards will not be graded. I'm expecting a significant writing on the topic. The topics I've given you will require at least 1,000 words to discuss fully, and you need to follow MLA format. So you're to submit your response in docs or doc format. You can also use RTF. Google Docs, PDF sometimes have problems going into Turnitin, which is where you're going to submit it. Sometimes Google Docs won't open because permission has not been granted. Pages, if you're using an Apple product, Pages sometimes will not work well with Turnitin either. So if you're using those, PDFs can work, but sometimes the formats get shuffled when you submit it. So I want to make sure you're not having that problem. So if you're using an Apple product, you have a Chromebook with Google Docs or whichever one you're using, all you have to do is when you get ready to save your document, save it as an RTF or rich text format, and you'll save it fine. And so you'll have that opportunity to do it. You can actually, of course, docs are part of Microsoft Windows, but you hopefully know that you can download Office 365 for free. Since you're TVC students, you have access to Office 365 for free. But anyway, let's look at the topics. So again, I'm going to raise that up a little bit so you can see it a little more clearly. Again, it says please select one of the following. See that before. Your response should have a sharp focus, offer specific details that give more than mere summary. I expect discussion of the topics. The essay is approximately 1,000 words, should reflect the hallmarks of good writing, which means, yes, I also teach English, so I pay attention to mechanics and grammar. I pay attention to sound writing techniques. I pay attention to transition between paragraphs and within paragraphs. I expect to see all of these within your essay, as well as as it says here, the ability to interpret and explain the topic. Proofread to avoid any errors in punctuation, mechanics, and grammar. The length is what will give an adequate commentary. That's why I said 1,000 words. Each of these topics, I believe, can be covered in 1,000 words, but maybe not as fully as you would like to do so and as may need to be done. So the essay is going to follow MLA standards, which is why I have everything else set up for you, which does mean you're going to double space your essay. You're going to have proper citations for the references. You will have paragraphs. Please do not treat this essay as if it is some sort of formal, some sort of report. So you do not start off your essay saying, in this essay I will be discussing. That's for reports, folks. This is an essay. That means you need to establish and set up a solid thesis, a point that you're going to be discussing throughout the rest of the essay, where you're taking a position on that topic and then explaining why your position has credibility. You will have paragraphs with me. Hit the tab button once for every paragraph. Do not just type against the left margin and do an extra space between what you're calling your paragraph. That's not MLA format, folks. Follow MLA format. And yes, you do lose out if you do not follow MLA format. So the topics, and you'll see that there are 9 different topics. The first topic is rather appropriate. I use this topic for summer 1 as well, because of what we're all going through currently and have been going through for the last few months, a pandemic. I thought, well, since your chapters covered it, this pandemic is also part of it. So I asked you to research the Black Death, how it affected populations near Europe, how were North Africa, Central Asia, present-day Russia, and the Middle East also affected, not just Europe, but the other areas. And what were the consequences of the plague in these areas near Europe, in and around Europe? How were they impacted? What was the impact? What proved to be some of the consequences? How did the Europeans and these other areas deal with these? So I want you to pay attention to those, and you'll have to do some research. We'll talk about how to find the research here in just a moment. The second topic asks you to look specifically at chapter 11 about Gothic style that never quite caught on in Italy. It really didn't. It was more of a northern architecture and art style. So I ask you to focus on the architecture. Notice that it is architecture, not just art, but architecture. Now I want you to look at the Italian architecture from the 1100s to the 1300s. That's the 12th through 14th century. And discuss why the verticality of the Gothic style, that up and down style, was not really seen in Italian architecture. Discuss that style in Italy during that time, offer specific examples to support your points. So you need to make points about the architectural style, discuss why Gothic style did not really prove very important or used in Italy during this time, and discuss some very specific examples so that you can go into very specific points to articulate these reasons why different style in Italy proved prevalent. The next topic asks you to look at the Medici family, starting from Lorenzo's death to the family's return in the 1500s. So you're going to start in 1492, key date, and you're going to discuss what happened to the family members, how they were able to regain power during the 1500s, and why this particular family was so important to the early Renaissance and on. So when you discuss this section, you'll actually go back before 1492. You'll discuss how the Medici family influenced and helped to accelerate the Renaissance. In the fourth topic, it asks you to look at Machiavelli. You have a little bit of excerpts about Machiavelli's The Prince in chapter 12. So I ask you to form some opinions about the ethical aspects of his advice, the usability of that advice. Is it really a guide, a useful guide for governing? And if so, how does the success of a state prove successful? How can the state be successful if it is unethical? Some people will say it is. Others say it's not unethical. And so you get to discuss that following Machiavelli's advice for if a state is organized accordingly is really not unethical. And you get to explain why, which is where you better support yourself with good reasons. And you get to discuss his view of humanity. And is he being pessimistic or something else? And so I ask you to argue your view here. So this gives you a chance to, having read a little bit of Machiavelli, maybe you do some further research on his work to discuss Machiavelli and the governing by a state. So The Prince is an important work. The next topic asks you to look at painting. So this comes into art. So you're going to look at Venetian style, and it has a very definitive style. So I asked you to look at the painting style there in the High Renaissance, which means the later Renaissance, and that which was in Rome, because the style in Venice contrasted with that which was in Rome at the same time period. Just because it was Italy does not mean that every part of Italy was following the same style. So I asked you to look at to discuss specific examples of Venetian style and Roman style. Talk about the differences in the interpretation of subjects, the use of line, the use of color, the allocation of space, all those details about art. So those of you who are leaning toward art get a chance to really go into discussion. You'll talk about the Venetian style, the Roman style, and then you'll talk about, for the rest of the essay probably, you'll discuss very specific examples of each one, 3 or 4 examples of each one, so that you can contrast those two in a sharp manner. Likewise, I ask you to, for the 6th topic, if you choose this one, this is about music and the Venetian school of composers, where you have Gabrieli. And so you get to look at their style, which is a little bit later in the 1500s. And are they really Renaissance, or are they something else? And I ask you to explain your position, why or why not. That means you have to argue. If you say that Gabriel and the Venetian school clearly represent the major components of what we call Renaissance composition in music, then what are your reasons? Support that. Have proof. And so if you go with that one, how do you define? If you say they're not Renaissance composers, that's all right too. But what then does define the Renaissance period of music? And so you have to use examples to support that. So if you're saying that the Renaissance music style has certain traits, what are those traits? What examples can you offer? For number 7, this is for the scientists among you. Copernicus, Napier, Gilbert, Harvey. I asked you to discuss 2 of these and the contribution that each one has made. So discuss the importance of each to development of scientific study. So you get to do a discussion of 2 of these figures. Harvey it's still stated, if any of you are planning on going to med school, get ready, you'll run into Harvey. Those of you who are interested in physics, you'll run into Copernicus. So, I mean, these people are still important. So you're going to discuss each one. This gives you a chance to set up with your introduction to lead into which 2 you're going to discuss, and then you'll spend the rest of your essay doing a discussion of one and then moving into the other. So you get to split that up in that way, get a sense of organization. The 8th topic, I asked you to look at the Baroque world. Those of you who have watched the videos with Januzak Wally, as I just call him, because it's easier to say, his videos over the Baroque era, those 3 videos which are so good, where he takes you to where the works are. You get a chance to see the proportions much more clearly, and he does a wonderful job discussing each one of those and the whole Baroque movement. Well, what I would like you to do here is take the following characteristics, and you have 5, and you're going to discuss how these 5 characteristics are represented in music, art, architecture, and literature. So you'll discuss not necessarily how all 5 are in music, how all 5 are in literature, but you'll discuss how one or more of the traits, the characteristics are presented in art, presented in the literature, whichever one. And you'll discuss music, art, architecture, and literature. So you'll need an example, at least one example of each one of these. So it says use specific examples and explain how these examples relate to one or more of these points. So this gives you a chance to discuss 4. So one way of organizing your essay is simply to have your introduction, setting it up, and then discuss music and have your examples about music and discuss 1 or 2 or 1 or more of these 5, and then move to art and use an example of art and discuss how, again, 1 or more of these traits can be recognized in 1 or 2 or 3 works of art. Same thing with architecture and literature. So it gives you a sense of organization that way. And then the last topic asks you to look at one of those philosophers. In this case, Spinoza, where you get to find out about his views, and especially his views about the nature of God and about the nature of reality. You're going to develop that, where the first part you'll summarize his life and works, and then the second part of the essay should be where you argue in favor of or against his views, his concept of the nature of reality. That's what metaphysics means. Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy where they're trying to get down to the fundamental basics. And so you get to spend half the essay talking about Spinoza's life and works, who he was, why he did, why he's considered such a major philosopher. And then the second half of the essay or more should be where you are taking his views about nature of reality and you're either supporting it, explaining why his concept actually is reasonable, or arguing against that view and explaining why it's not. So this is the essay topic, and so this is the different ones that you're asked to look at. Now, to find the extra sources, go to our library resources. It's right here. You'll see this is a tab. You just simply click on it, and you can start researching. For instance, right here at the EBSCO button, is some of us just call it the big blue button. You'll see, okay, just put in Spinoza. And I have to log in, which is what you'll have to do also. Log into that, and then it will open. And there we go, Spinoza, Basic Concepts. And if I click on this, it'll show me that I can look at the EPUB full text or the PDF full text. So if I click on the PDF full text, it'll load it. Give it just a moment. In case you're wondering, this is an entire book. And so I can go down here and I can look at God and the Attributes, which is a section here by Stephen Connolly. I'm going to not zoom on this one. Get that down just a little bit. There we go. All right, that's good. And one of the nice aspects about this one, right up here, you'll see Cite. If I click on that, and then I have to scroll down just a little bit, I can find the MLA citation for this work. All I have to do is copy and paste that. I have to do a little fixing, but not too much. But let me show you how this looks. I just copy it. Don't want all that. So I'm trying to do all of it. So bear with me. Just trying to get this one. All right. And I copy it. Open up my Word, which hopefully will open here in just a moment. Here it comes. Then all I have to do is paste it, and then I have to fix it. You know that part. So I click here on this last line at the bottom of at the end of the first line. I hit Enter, then I hit Tab, and there you go. I have the proper citation. So that's how that should look. Go back here. There we go. So that's how you find resources for your research paper. Just go here, type in what you're looking for, and you'll see each of those details. So again, for the essay, you will click on Modules. You'll go down to the Major Essays, look through all this for background to remind you about how to use embedded format, and then you will click on this to actually open the topics. So you can choose one and start working on this. Go to the library resources for outside resources. Please avoid using .coms. Don't just go through on a Google search, and definitely stay away from Wikipedia. That is not considered a credible research source. For academic resources, you try to use our library resources. And so hopefully this has helped you with your essay. Hopefully you'll find this to be beneficial. And we are going to close this off. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. All right, good luck with the essay. And I should have all the exams graded shortly.